Welcome. Tonight, we drift back through time to the banks of the Nile, around 3,000 years ago, when the world was quieter, the air thicker with the scent of papyrus and dust, and the slow rhythm of life matched the eternal pulse of the river. Our story tonight follows one person, a scribe, not a king nor a warrior, but one of those who captured the words, numbers, and stories that shaped the kingdom of Egypt. As the world outside dims, we'll walk through his day, from the soft light of dawn to the deep stillness of night. Let your mind drift as we travel beside him, unhurried and calm. The gentle light of morning, the night in ancient Egypt lingers like a soft breath over the land. For a brief while before dawn, the desert holds its coolness, and the air carries the faint scent of clay and the river. Somewhere in the dark, a dog stirs, a reed curtain rustles, and a low voice hums the first notes of morning prayer. Inside a modest mud brick house, a man begins to wake. He is not a noble or a warrior, not someone the world would remember by name, but he holds a power of a quieter kind. He is a scribe, and his world is made of ink, papyrus, and memory. He lies still for a moment, listening. The house murmurs with faint life, the sigh of a sleeping child, the rustle of straw beneath the woven mat. Outside, the first color of dawn seeps into the sky, a pale wash of rose and sand. It touches the walls with light so soft it could almost be imagined. The scribe turns slowly on his mat. The woven fibers press lightly against his skin, a small reminder of the body's presence before the mind begins its day. He sits up and breathes, deep and slow. The air carries a whisper of yesterday's fire, a faint, dry scent that clings to the walls. He reaches for a small clay bowl by the doorway. Inside is water from the well, cool and still. He splashes it gently over his hands and face, feeling the shock of cold against the sleep-warm skin. This is a ritual of cleansing. Simple, unspoken, but old as the temples themselves. For in his world, cleanliness is more than comfort. It is reverence. Before he can hold the reed, pen, or touch the sacred scroll, he must be made pure by water, as if washing away not just dust, but the remnants of dream and thought. He dries his hands on a linen cloth, soft from years of use, and stands. The room around him is small, a single chamber built from sun-dried mud brick, its walls marked by faint streaks of soot from oil lamps. A clay jar of grain rests near the corner, beside a bundle of papyrus stalks brought home from the riverbank weeks ago. The faint glow of dawn seeps through the doorway, turning the walls to a shade between gold and ivory. He steps outside. The village is quiet, a few narrow lanes of packed earth wind between small homes like his, their flat roofs outlined against the brightening sky. Beyond the rooftops lies the river, the Nile, vast and slow, its surface still silver in the morning light. You can almost hear the soft slap of water against the reeds and the rhythmic creak of wooden boats tethered to the shore. Somewhere, a rooster calls. A woman's voice drifts across the air, soft, melodic, singing an old hymn to the dawn. It is a sound both human and eternal, a daily greeting to the gods who govern time and harvest. The scribe kneels beside a small clay stove, where the last coals from last night's fire still hold their warmth. He adds a few dry sticks, blows gently until they glow, and sets a flat stone plate upon it. His wife, already awake, brings a bowl of dough made from barley flour. Together, in silence, they press the dough into small discs and lay them on the warm stone. The smell of baking bread rises into the cool air, earthy, comforting, filling the tiny courtyard with life. While the bread cooks, the scribe takes a seat on a low stool. His young son, not yet of schooling age, wanders sleepily from the house and climbs into his lap. The boy's eyes are still heavy, his hair sticking up like reeds after the flood. The father smooths it gently, his hand moving with the tenderness of habit. He points to the sky. See, he murmurs, his voice soft, barely above the morning wind. Ra rises again. The sun returns, and so does the work of men. The child blinks up at the horizon, where a pale line of gold now edges the hills. To him, the sun's journey is a story, one told every morning anew, and every evening completed. He listens, not yet understanding the depth of what it means, but feeling the comfort of his father's voice. When the bread is done, they eat quietly. Bread dipped in a small bowl of honey, a few dates from the basket that hangs in the shade. The sweetness lingers on the tongue, a soft balance to the dry air. Their breakfast is simple, but enough. It has been enough for countless generations before them, and will be enough for countless more to come. After eating, the scribe prepares for his day. He takes a folded strip of linen from a wooden chest, shakes the dust from it, and wraps it around his waist. A simple kilt, cool and practical in the heat. He slips a thin reed pen behind his ear and checks the small satchel he will carry to work. Inside are a few sheets of papyrus, each one smoothed carefully to remove rough fibers. A small pot of black ink sits beside them, a mixture of soot, water, and a touch of gum to bind it. There is another pot, smaller, that holds red ink, used for titles, names, or the words of the gods. He runs a finger gently along the reed pens, their tips hardened by fire. These are his tools, as sacred to him as the plow to the farmer, or the chisel to the mason. His wife hands him a small cloth bundle for the midday meal. He thanks her quietly. There is no need for long goodbyes. Their life moves with a rhythm that repeats, each day blending into the next like the flowing river. He steps into the lane. The light has changed now, no longer the pink of dawn, but the soft gold of full morning. The air begins to warm, carrying the scent of mud, grain, and river water. A few neighbors greet him as he passes, a potter arranging his wares outside the door, a weaver unrolling fresh linen in the sunlight. Each nod is slow, unhurried, a small acknowledgement that another day has begun, that the gods have allowed them to rise once more. As he walks, the village opens around him. Children run barefoot through the dust, chasing a ground ball of woven reeds. An old man sits beneath a date palm, mending a fishing net with fingers worn smooth by years of labor. In the distance, a woman draws water from a well, her reflection trembling on the surface. The scribe's footsteps leave faint impressions in the sand. He moves with purpose but not haste. In Egypt, time belongs to the sun and the river, not to the clock. Everything flows, slowly, steadily, inevitably. As he nears the edge of the village, the first rays of strong sunlight catch on the water. The Nile gleams like hammered bronze, its ripples flashing in rhythm with the morning breeze. Across the river, fields stretch in tidy rows, barley, wheat, onions, flax, their green softened by the haze of heat already rising. Beyond them, the desert begins, a vast ocean of pale gold, silent and endless. The scribe pauses for a moment, taking in the view he has seen every day of his life. To him, it is more than a landscape. It is order itself, the fertile black soil, the narrow ribbon of green, the golden sand. Each has its place, each a symbol of balance. He murmurs a short prayer to Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. It is not spoken aloud, but held silently in the mind, a whisper of gratitude, a request for steadiness of hand and clarity of thought. Then he begins his walk along the riverbank, toward the house of life, the temple school where scribes work. The path winds between palms and papyrus reeds, their shadows trembling across the ground. Insects hum softly in the warm air. The world feels awake now, but not hurried, alive in the slow rhythm of purpose. As he walks, he sometimes recites words in his head, phrases from hymns or lessons copied long ago. It is how scribes keep their minds sharp. The cadence of hieroglyphs, the balance of sound and symbol, are like breathing to him, an inward rhythm that guides his thoughts. Occasionally, a fisherman passes, pushing his small boat with a long pole. They nod in greeting. No words are exchanged, none are needed. Each knows the other's place in the weave of the day. Ahead, the house of life rises behind its whitewashed walls. It is not grand like a temple, but serene, built to last not by its size, but by the care of those within. The sun catches on the smooth limestone, and the air smells faintly of ink, oil, and cool stone. He stops at the entrance, bows his head slightly, and steps into the shadowed courtyard. Inside, the sounds of the outside world fade away. The market chatter, the call of birds, the river's hum. Here, there is only stillness, and the soft whisper of reed pens across papyrus. This is where the day truly begins. The sun has just climbed above the palms when the scribe begins his walk. The pale gold light catches the edges of every roof, turning the village into a living painting of clay and dust. The air is still cool enough to breathe easily, though the promise of heat already hides in the distance. He adjusts the strap of his small satchel across his shoulder. Inside it lie his reed pens, his ink pots, and folded sheets of papyrus, the quiet tools of a quiet profession. The narrow lane that leads from his home toward the river is uneven, packed with years of footprints. Bits of straw and husks of grain cling to the ground. Children's voices float through the air, soft, curious, half-awake sounds, followed by a goat bleating as it's led to graze. Every morning feels the same, and that sameness is comfort. Life here does not hurry toward anything, it repeats, steady as the flow of the Nile. He walks slowly, not out of idleness but respect for the calm of early hours. To move too quickly through this time of day would feel like breaking something fragile. Dust rises around his ankles with each step, curling in small pale clouds that catch the sunlight and vanish. A woman ahead of him balances a basket of vegetables on her head. He watches her go, her footsteps sure, her linen robe catching the faint breeze. At a crossroads where the lane widens, a potter is already at work. The rhythmic turning of his wheel makes a soft, steady hum. The scribe pauses to greet him, a nod, nothing more. They know each other as neighbors know one another, through shared mornings, not through words. He glances at the pots taking shape beneath the potter's hands, round bellies, narrow necks, waiting to be dried in the sun. Each vessel has a quiet perfection to it. He thinks, not for the first time, that writing is much the same, shaping something soft and fleeting into form before it dries and hardens into memory. He moves on. To his left, the roofs of the village taper down toward the fields. Beyond them, thin columns of smoke rise where other families prepare their first meal. The smell of baking bread and damp earth mingles in the air, heavy and comforting. To his right, the open desert stretches out, pale and endless. He does not look at it long. The emptiness makes the eyes ache. The desert is for journeys of the soul, not for morning walks. As the lane opens onto the river path, the breeze changes. It carries with it the moist scent of water, cool and faintly sweet. Papyrus reeds cluster along the banks, tall and whispering, their green tips brushing the sky. Somewhere nearby, a water bird takes flight, wings slapping gently against the air. The scribe pauses to watch the reflection of light on the current. The Nile moves with unbroken patience, smooth and certain, older than memory itself. He follows the river southward. Each step brings new sounds. The creak of a wooden mast as a small fishing boat pushes off, the splash of oars, the murmur of men calling to one another in tones softened by distance. These sounds mix with the whisper of reeds, forming a rhythm that seems to set the pace of his own breathing. He passes a cluster of fishermen repairing nets spread out on the sand. They greet him quietly, respectful of his linen sash and the satchel at his side. In Egypt, even the humblest fisherman knows the worth of the scribe. It is the scribe who records the catch, who tallies the tax, who ensures that names and numbers do not vanish. He returns their greeting with a small bowl, aware of their glances of respect, but indifferent to pride. The work of writing is sacred, but it is also service, an offering to order itself. The path veers inland again, past the edges of cultivated land. Barley fields shimmer faintly in the new light, the stalks bending together like a single breathing thing. A boy drives a small herd of goats between the rows, their hooves making soft thuds against the soil. The scribe watches the scene with mild affection. He remembers being a boy himself before he learned to hold a reed pen. Those memories come to him now like gentle echoes, bare feet in mud, laughter, the long heat of harvest afternoons. He smiles faintly and continues walking. A few minutes later he passes the village granary. Its thick, rounded walls hold the scent of stored grain, a scent dry and faintly sweet. 2 guards sit near the entrance, spears resting across their knees. One raises a hand in greeting. The scribe answers with the same calm gesture. There is nothing hurried or formal about these exchanges. They are as predictable as the turn of the seasons. The path begins to rise slightly, leading toward a low ridge. From here he can already see the whitewashed walls of the House of Life gleaming faintly in the distance. The sight brings a quiet satisfaction. Every morning the same view greets him, and every morning it feels like coming home. He has walked this route for so many years that the landscape feels etched into his body. The slope of the path, the sound of each turn, the rhythm of his breathing as he nears the gate. He pauses at the crest of the ridge to rest a moment. Below him the river curves gently through the valley, glinting beneath the sun. Beyond it, far on the horizon, stand the faint outlines of temple columns, solemn, immovable, as though they too are watching the day begin. He takes a slow breath, letting the warm air fill his lungs, and continues down toward the temple district. As he approaches, the bustle of the outer market begins to stir. Traders arrange baskets of vegetables and clay jars along the road. The calls of hawkers rise and fall like birdsong, soft at first, then swelling as more voices join in. But even here, in the growing noise, there is a sense of rhythm rather than chaos. Everything moves to the pulse of the sun's ascent, never faster, never slower. He passes a man leading a donkey loaded with papyrus reeds. The scent of the fresh stalks is sharp and green. The man nods, saying that the reeds are bound for the temple workshops where scribes like him will strip and press them into smooth sheets. The scribe nods in return, grateful for the reminder that every page he writes upon begins its life in the marshes by the Nile. At the edge of the market he stops briefly to buy a small jar of ink powder. The vendor knows him well. No words are needed beyond the brief exchange of a few copper pieces. The powder is made of fine soot, mixed with a pinch of resin, black as obsidian. Later, when he reaches his desk, he will mix it with water and a drop of oil, grinding slowly until it becomes the liquid that carries thought onto papyrus. He places the small jar carefully into his satchel and moves on. The road narrows again as it winds toward the temple compound. Here, the air grows cooler. The high walls cast long shadows even in morning light. The sounds of trade fade away, replaced by the quiet murmur of students reciting lessons. A few novices sweep the courtyard stones, their brooms whispering softly against the ground. The faint smell of incense drifts from the inner halls, frankincense and myrrh, the fragrance of worship and learning intertwined. He reaches the great wooden gate of the House of Life. 2 stone lions guard the entrance, their faces worn smooth by centuries of wind and dust. He touches the lintel lightly with his fingertips, a gesture of respect. The wood beneath his hand is warm, familiar. He takes a slow breath and steps inside. The first breath within the walls is cool and still. The air carries the faint dust of papyrus and limestone, and something subtler, the scent of ink, of old scrolls warmed by sunlight and time. For a moment the scribe lingers beneath the archway, allowing his eyes to adjust from the brightness outside to the shaded calm within. He feels the familiar hush settle over him, a quiet that is not empty but full, filled with purpose, filled with memory. The courtyard opens before him, like a shallow basin of light. Tall pillars ring the edges, painted long ago in blues that have faded to gray, reds that sleep beneath a veil of sand. Between the pillars, thin curtains of woven reed sway gently in the breeze, softening the light. A shallow pool at the center reflects the square of sky above, its surface broken only by the occasional drop from a hanging water jar. The ripples move outward, slow and perfect, like the spreading thought of a careful mind. Around the courtyard, other scribes are already at their work. Some sit cross-legged on low stools, papyrus unrolled across their knees. Others grind pigment on smooth stones, the rhythmic scrape whispering through the stillness. Each movement is deliberate, steady. It is the rhythm of those who serve the written word, and the silence between those sounds feels sacred. He crosses the courtyard, his sandals whispering over the cool flagstones. At a long stone bench, a young apprentice rises to greet him. A boy no older than 12, head shaved smooth except for a small lock of hair at the crown. He bows, holding out a reed pen already trimmed and ready for use. The scribe accepts it with a nod, noticing the neatness of the cut, sharp, precise, the work of steady hands. He remembers when his own fingers first learned that delicate skill, and the endless practice it required, shaving the reed to the perfect point, testing it on scrap, trimming again until the stroke was right. Even that small memory carries a gentle pride. The boy hurries away, barefoot and silent, while the scribe moves toward the inner hall. The hall is lined with niches that hold baskets of scrolls, records of harvests, temple offerings, lists of workers and wages, prayers to the gods, contracts sealed in ink rather than wax. Each scroll is tied with a strip of linen and labeled in neat red script. Together, they form the memory of the city, its heartbeat preserved in words. He finds his usual place beside a low table near a window slit that lets in a narrow beam of light. The same spot every day, for years without change. He sets down his satchel, unrolls his writing mat, and arranges his tools. First the inkwell, then the palette, then the folded cloth he uses to blot excess moisture. Every motion is quiet ritual, performed with the unspoken belief that order in the workspace brings order to the mind. For a few minutes he simply sits, listening. From somewhere deeper within the building comes the sound of chanting, a small group of novices reciting the instructions of Ta-Hotep, the old wisdom text. Their voices rise and fall in measured cadence. Do not be proud because of your knowledge. Consult the ignorant as well as the wise. He closes his eyes briefly and lets the words pass through him like cool water. He has copied that same passage more times than he can count. Each time it feels both familiar and newly true. When he begins to write, he dips the pen only lightly into the black ink. A single touch is enough. The reed meets the papyrus with a faint, satisfying whisper, a sound that feels alive, though it belongs to nothing living. He writes the day's heading in red, account of grain received, year 24 of the reign of the good God, Lord of two lands. Then, beneath it, the careful columns of numbers and names. The light shifts slowly across the floor as he works. Dust motes drift through the beam like tiny golden insects. Each stroke of ink joins a line of meaning to the page, the physical trace of thought. When the pen begins to dull, he trims it with a small knife, wiping the blade on a strip of linen. The scent of the fresh-cut reed rises for an instant, green, sharp, fleeting. At intervals, a supervising priest walks the aisles, his steps soft, his eyes lingering briefly on each scribe's work. He says little, offering a word of approval or a small correction. Their relationship is one of mutual respect, bound by quiet understanding. The priest tends to spirit, the scribe to memory, and both serve the same order. In the courtyard outside, the first heat of the day deepens. Through the open shutters comes the sound of doves cooing in the roof beams. Somewhere a jar tilts, and water trickles into a basin. These small sounds mark the passage of time more gently than any clock could. The scribes measure their hours by light, by shadow, by the slow progress of their work across the scroll. After some time, a novice brings a tray of cool water and small cakes made from figs and barley. It is a short break, barely long enough for conversation, yet the pause itself feels gracious. The scribe accepts a cup, drinks slowly, and looks across the hall. He sees the faces of younger men bent over their writing, the same furrowed concentration he once wore. A few whispers to each other, comparing strokes of a difficult sign. Their teacher corrects them with a patient hand, guiding their pens until each symbol stands balanced, beautiful. He feels no hurry to return to the page. In this place, time behaves differently. The world beyond the walls may change, markets rise, floods come and go, but within these rooms, the hours seem to hover, repeating themselves endlessly, each day the mirror of the one before, and there is peace in that repetition. When he finally leans forward again, the ink has thickened slightly in the heat. He stirs it with the tip of the pen, watches it gleam. Then he resumes his work, copying a passage from an older scroll, a hymn to Thoth, god of writing and balance. The words are as familiar to him as his own breath. Praise to you, Lord of the sacred tongue, who measures the heavens, who orders the earth. Each line unrolls beneath his hand like a prayer spoken in movement, rather than sound. The act of writing itself becomes devotion, a bridge between thought and eternity. The heat gathers as the morning matures. By the time the sun climbs high enough to touch the roof beams, a faint shimmer trembles in the courtyard air. Within the stone halls, the air remains cool but still, heavy with the scent of chalk and damp plaster. The scribe sets down his pen and flexes his fingers, the joints stiff from hours of careful movement. The reed leaves a faint stain along the side of his thumb, a mark so familiar he no longer notices it. He glances at the scroll before him. The columns are neat and even, their symmetry a quiet satisfaction. The lines of hieratic script seem to breathe on the page, alive in their small precision. This is what he loves most, the transformation of nothing into something lasting, the way a fleeting sound, once captured in ink, can survive beyond the lives of those who spoke it. He thinks of the old masters, whose handwriting still fills the shelves, their hands long gone but their thoughts unbroken. A bell sounds softly in the outer courtyard, a hollow bronze tone that signals the pause for midday rest. The scribes set down their tools in unison, a slow choreography of routine. Scrolls are rolled and tied, brushes washed, ink covered to keep it from drying. The apprentices move quickly, sweeping stray papyrus fibers into small piles, collecting used water jars. There is no chatter, only the gentle rhythm of completion, the quiet closing of the morning's work. The scribe rises, stretching his back, and steps into the brightness outside. The sunlight feels thicker now, almost solid against his skin. He crosses to a shaded portico where narrow mats have been laid out. Several others are already reclining there, eating from small woven baskets. Dates, bread, and strips of dried fish. The smell mingles with the sweet air drifting from the lotus pool. He sits beside a colleague, a man of similar age with lines carved deep at the corners of his mouth. They exchange a brief nod, enough of a greeting between two who have shared the same space for decades. There is no need for conversation. Silence has become their friendship's native language. Both eat slowly, their movements unhurried, eyes drifting to the pool where a single ibis stands motionless among the reeds. The bird's reflection wavers on the surface, more water than feather, and for a long while it does not move at all. A soft murmur of recitation comes from a nearby group of novices. Even during rest, they practice. Their voices are light, uncertain, like reeds in the first wind of morning. The older scribes listen without correction. Every mistake they know will be smoothed away by time and repetition. It always is. The scribe takes a final drink of cool water and leans back on his elbows, letting his eyes close. He can still feel the texture of papyrus beneath his fingers, the slight give where the fibers cross. In the stillness, he thinks about how the materials of his craft come from the world around him. The river reeds, the soot, the clay, the linen. Writing, he muses, is not merely a human act, but a continuation of nature's own patterning. The ink flows like the river, the scroll unrolls like the horizon. It comforts him, this thought of connection. Somewhere above, a pigeon flutters from the roof, its wings catching the sunlight in sudden flashes of white. The sound is startling for its beauty, a single living interruption in the long quiet of the day. He opens his eyes again, smiling faintly, and watches it disappear beyond the temple walls. Soon the others begin to rise. The bell will sound again when the rest period ends, but many know by instinct when it is time to return. The rhythm of their days is written into their bodies. He stands, dusts the sand from his linen kilt, and makes his way toward the small side garden behind the library wing. The garden is a hidden corner of shade, where a narrow canal runs between beds of herbs. There is mint here, and coriander, and the delicate blue flowers of flax. A few palm trees bend over the water, their reflections quivering in the slow current. He often comes here at midday, not to work but simply to breathe. The hush of the garden is its own kind of script, one written not in ink, but in scent, in stillness, in the passage of light through leaves. He kneels near the water's edge and dips his hand into the shallow stream. It is warm near the surface, cool below. The water curls around his fingers and breaks apart, carrying small flecks of sunlight downstream. He watches them drift, golden and weightless. In this moment, there is no past or future, only the steady, endless now. The sound of sandals on stone draws his attention. An apprentice appears, carrying a fresh roll of papyrus and a small sealed jar of pigment. He bows, waiting for instruction. The scribe nods toward the inner hall, and the boy scurries off, careful not to disturb the tranquil order of the place. That silent respect is something every novice must learn, not just how to write, but how to be still among words. When he returns to his seat, the shadows have shifted. The beam of light that once touched his table now lies farther across the floor, a slow sun clock marking the day's decline. He unties a new scroll and begins preparing it, flattening the sheets, rubbing them gently with a stone to smooth the fibers. It is tedious work, but he enjoys the patience it requires. Every surface must be even, every edge precise. Only then will the ink flow true. By the time he resumes writing, the air has softened. The glare of midday fades to a muted brightness, and the world outside hums with the slow life of the afternoon. Bees among blossoms, footsteps far away. He copies a passage from a temple record, a prayer offered for the health of the pharaoh's household. The names are many, each one written with care. It occurs to him that these small acts, the careful writing of names, are a way of keeping people alive within the great memory of Egypt. Ink as immortality, quiet as preservation. His thoughts drift as he works. He remembers his first teacher, an old man who once said that every scribe writes for two readers, the one alive now, and the one who will open the scroll generations later. Perhaps that unseen reader will notice his steady hand and know something of him, even if his name is lost. It is a comforting idea, one that softens the sharpness of time. The hall grows dimmer. A servant moves quietly through the aisles, lighting small oil lamps set into wall niches. Their flames tremble gently, and shadows stretch upward like tall reeds. Soon it will be the hour of the afternoon prayers, and the scribes will lay down their pens once more. But for now, he writes a few final lines, letting the last of the daylight guide him. Outside, the ibis still stands by the pool, unmoving, as if it too were waiting for the next page of the day to turn. Scribe sets aside his pen, leans back, and exhales slowly. Another portion of the endless work is done. another thread woven into the long fabric of time. He listens, not for sound, but for the quiet that follows sound. The kind of quiet that seems to deepen with every heartbeat, drawing the mind inward toward rest. It is the same stillness that waits inside all things that endure, the stone, the scroll, the river, and the human hand that writes upon it. The afternoon sun settles lower, a mellow gold spreading over the temple walls. The heat softens, the air thick with the scent of stone and dust. For a time, everything slows, not from weariness but from harmony. The scribes, like the city itself, have learned to move with the rhythm of the light. No rush, no urgency. The day is long, and words like the Nile always find their course. Inside the house of life, the walls seem to hum quietly in the heat. The faint echo of footsteps moves through the corridor as apprentices carry baskets of fresh papyrus and jars of water to refill the inkwells. The sound of sandals brushing over stone blends with the faint crackle of burning oil lamps. It is a world measured not by hours, but by the number of lines written, the number of breaths drawn between thoughts. The scribe sits once more before his low table. His posture is familiar, his hands resting lightly beside the ink palette. He feels a slow satisfaction in returning to the task. Writing, for him, is not work in the ordinary sense. It is a form of stillness. Each stroke of ink becomes a heartbeat, steady and continuous, guiding him deeper into the day. Before him lies a new scroll, longer than the last. It contains a sacred hymn, a passage meant for the temple's evening recitations. The text is old, copied and recopied by generations before him, but the papyrus on which it rests is fresh and pale, waiting for its first mark. He studies the faint guidelines pressed into the sheet, invisible except in the slant of light. Those small impressions will keep his writing straight. Unseen hands that guide the visible ones. He begins, as always, with red ink. The first line declares the name of the god, words of praise to Thoth, who speaks truth, he who brings order where there was none. The red is symbolic, the color of life and beginning. Every text begins in red, as dawn begins in fire. Only after those first words does he dip his pen into black, the color of permanence, and continue in patient strokes. The writing flows right to left, the reed pen whispering faintly with each movement. Around him the hall breathes quietly. Other scribes are at their own tables, each immersed in their work. The sound of writing, the dry rasp of pen against papyrus, rises and falls like distant rain. Every so often, someone sighs softly or clears their throat. The air feels full, yet undisturbed. As he copies the hymn, the scribe's mind drifts gently through memory. He remembers his early lessons, the way his teacher would insist on precision, on patience, on knowing not only how to write, but how to see the word. "Do not hurry," the old man had said, "for the word is like a seed. If planted too quickly, it will not take root." That lesson has remained with him. Even now, each mark of the pen feels like a small act of cultivation. The hymn speaks of balance, of the eternal measure between chaos and order. Its rhythm matches his breathing. The lines unfold slowly, carrying him with them. He who measures, measures again. He who writes, preserves what the gods have spoken. In these words, he finds quiet purpose. He does not imagine that he is making something new. Rather, he is maintaining what already exists. The unbroken line of remembrance. Each scribe who copies the hymn keeps the memory alive, and in doing so keeps the world itself from dissolving into silence. Now and then, an apprentice approaches to observe his work. They stand respectfully at a distance, watching the precise angle of his wrist, the measured rhythm of his breathing. He offers no verbal instruction, only demonstration. To speak would break the quiet equilibrium. When the pupil nods and withdraws, he feels a mild warmth of pride, not for himself, but for the continuation of the craft. He pauses to clean the pen, dipping it lightly into water, and wiping the tip on a strip of cloth. The ink bleeds softly into the fibers, creating a small bloom of darkness that fades toward the edges. For a moment, he studies that spreading shape, finding in it a quiet beauty, the way impermanence leaves traces of itself even in something so simple. The light through the window shifts again, narrowing into a single amber band that falls across the floor. Dust dances in it, slow and golden. Outside, a soft wind rises, brushing through the reeds that grow near the temple walls. The sound carries faintly inside, a low, endless whisper that might almost be mistaken for breath. He continues writing, the pace unchanging. There is no need to hurry. The hymn will be finished when it is finished, just as the river reaches the sea in its own time. He has come to understand that the act of writing is its own reward, not the finished page, but the hours spent within it. Eventually he stops and leans back, stretching his shoulders. The muscles ache slightly, but it is a familiar ache, the kind that comes from devotion. He closes the scroll carefully, pressing the edge of the reed over the last line to dry the ink. Then he sets it aside to rest beneath a small wooden weight. From somewhere deeper in the complex comes the sound of chanting. It is the evening ritual beginning earlier than usual. The priest's voice is low and resonant. Their words are old, yet they ripple through the air as if newly born each time they are spoken. He listens without trying to interpret them. Meaning is less important than the feeling. The way sound itself seems to reach through time, binding generations together. He takes a slow breath, letting the warmth of the day ease through him. The faint scent of burning resin drifts in from the sanctum, mingling with the dusty sweetness of papyrus. He closes his eyes, not in sleep, but in quiet attention. Even without looking, he can see the image of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing, standing serene, a scroll in one hand, the reed pen in the other. The god's posture mirrors his own, as though the divine and the human have long shared the same gesture of creation. He opens his eyes again, returning to the visible world. There is still work to be done before sunset, and he welcomes it. The steady labor of the hand is its own kind of peace, a rhythm that holds the day together as surely as the temple's stones hold the walls upright. He selects a second scroll, this one older, its edges softened with use. The ink has faded to a dull brown, but the words remain legible. It is a letter, copied long ago from one scribe to another. The handwriting is unfamiliar, delicate and small. He reads the opening lines, smiling faintly at their simplicity. To my brother in the house of life, may the God of wisdom keep your hand steady and your ink flowing true. He finds comfort in this humble greeting. It reminds him that even across centuries, scribes have shared the same fatigue, the same small joys, the same desire to be remembered by those who understand their craft. He dips his pen once more, and the slow dance of ink resumes. The afternoon drifts on, heavy with the warmth of the sun, yet gentle in its weight. The scribes around him move in quiet synchrony, a chorus of stillness and soft movement. The scribe adjusts his posture, resting his elbow lightly on the table, and watches the shadows stretch across the stone floor. They crawl slowly, spreading from the walls toward the center of the hall, marking the gentle passage of time. His eyes fall upon the tools of his craft, lined neatly on the table beside him. The inkpots are small, humble, yet essential. The black, dense with soot and resin, waits to transform thought into permanence. The red, warm and vivid, traces the beginnings of each text like the first light of dawn. Even the simplest reed pen, shaped and hardened by careful fire, feels sacred in his hand. These tools are extensions of himself, and he treats them with a quiet reverence. He picks up a small knife and trims the tip of his reed, watching the fine fibers split and curl slightly. The sound is soft, almost imperceptible, but it resonates with him in a way that is both soothing and precise. Each cut reminds him of years spent learning, of patience earned through repetition. No motion is wasted, no line is hurried, every gesture is deliberate, measured, a meditation in motion. The hymn continues to unfold beneath his pen. The words are not new, yet they feel alive with every stroke. He senses the rhythm in the text, the cadence that rises and falls, guiding his hand as the Nile guides a boat. Even the spaces between words are important. A pause, a breath, a place for thought to rest. In this, writing becomes not merely communication, but meditation. Around him, the younger scribes pause occasionally to look up from their tables. Some glance toward the windows, noting the slow drift of clouds across the sky. Others watch their peers work, silently absorbing the way practiced hands move, the subtle tilt of the pen, the careful dot of ink. The scribe notices them, offering no words but a slight nod. Mentorship here is quiet, unspoken, carried in shared habits and gentle example. Time passes, unmeasured except by the changing light. The golden beam that once touched his scroll is now thin, stretching toward the floor as if reaching for rest. Dust motes swirl within it, drifting lazily like small clouds of gold. He watches them for a long moment, entranced by their slow movement. The world outside might rush, but here, within the walls of the House of Life, there is only the gentle progression of the day. He dips the pen again, the nib kissing the papyrus. The sound, faint and dry, is almost hypnotic. Line after line emerges, each sign carefully formed, each word a quiet testament to the labor of memory. As he works, he notices the small differences between today's ink and yesterday's. Slight variations in thickness, subtle changes in the way it absorbs the fibers of the papyrus. These tiny observations are comforting, grounding him in the material world, even as his mind wanders through abstract thought. At intervals, he pauses to rest his eyes. He looks across the hall at the older manuscripts stored in niches. Their pages are curled slightly at the edges, their ink faded but legible. Some are hymns, others administrative records, letters, or notes for students. Each one carries the hand of a different scribe, each a silent companion through the centuries. The continuity of their work offers him a quiet assurance that he too, in his modest way, is part of something enduring. He notices the faint smell of resin drifting from the lamps, mingling with the earthy scent of papyrus. It is warm and soft, the kind of scent that seeps into memory, embedding the experience of quiet labor into the senses. Every inhalation is a reminder of his place in the long tradition of scribes, a lineage built on ink, patience, and careful observation. A young apprentice approaches, carrying a tray of fresh water and a small bundle of dates. The scribe accepts them without haste, placing a few on the side of his table. He eats slowly, savoring the sweetness and the soft texture, letting each bite mark the passing of another quiet segment of the afternoon. There is no conversation, none is needed. Even silence is a teacher here. Once refreshed, he returns to the scroll. The lines of the hymn are now nearly complete, their rhythm established, the script balanced and harmonious. The act of writing feels meditative, almost like a slow chant repeated without sound. He traces each symbol carefully, aware of the subtle way his hand glides over the papyrus fibers, the faint resistance that gives the pen its voice. Occasionally he pauses to check a reference scroll. These are older copies, each one a faint echo of the original text. He compares a symbol, ensures consistency, then returns to his own work. Accuracy is essential, but urgency is absent. Time, in this quiet hall, is measured not by minutes, but by the completion of tasks, the rhythm of thought, and the flow of ink across the page. He glances toward the window again. The afternoon light has softened into a gentle amber glow, warm but not harsh. Shadows stretch long across the floor, bending around pillars and tables, moving imperceptibly with the slow rotation of the sun. The world outside the temple carries on, animals grazing, the distant clatter of the market, but here, there is only the meticulous, deliberate passage of writing. The scribe pauses once more, lifting his gaze from the scroll. He notices the faint flutter of a palm leaf outside, moving in a breeze that carries the scent of river water and earth. The sound is soft, soothing, like the echo of distant footsteps or the gentle rustle of linen. He breathes in slowly, letting the quiet deepen around him, the steady pulse of life mingling with the rhythm of his work. At this point, he resumes, tracing the final lines of the hymn. The red ink marks the beginnings of new sections. The black completes the thought. Each stroke is deliberate, measured, almost ceremonial in its care. He senses the weight of generations behind him, each scribe who has traced similar words in the same meditative calm. It is a quiet honor, this continuity, and it settles over him like a warm cloak. The sound of a bell signals a brief pause, a time for reflection, stretching, and water. The scribe rises, sets down his pen, and walks slowly toward the small garden courtyard. His feet make soft contact with the stone floors, and the air seems cooler as he moves from the hall into open space. Here, the day is half-lived, the rhythm steady, the work unfolding naturally as it always has. He kneels near a shallow basin, splashing cool water over his face and wrists. The touch of liquid brings a faint shiver of comfort, a reminder of the physical world in contrast to the quiet abstraction of ink and papyrus. He lets the sensation linger, breathing slowly, feeling each muscle relax. The afternoon is long, but it is neither oppressive nor fleeting. It exists simply, deliberately, in its own time. The sun dips lower now, casting long, mellow beams through the open windows of the House of Life. The light is warm, almost golden, brushing against the tops of scrolls and the smooth stone floor. Shadows stretch and bend slowly, marking the passage of hours with quiet precision. The air carries the faint scent of dried papyrus and soot from the lamps, mingling softly with the earthy fragrance of the garden outside. The scribe returns to his table, refreshed from his brief pause. His hands are steady, the muscles relaxed yet ready, the mind alert but calm. He unrolls the final section of the hymn and picks up his pen. The sound of ink on papyrus rises in the hall once more, low and whispering, a gentle accompaniment to the distant murmur of other scribes at work. Each line unfolds slowly, carefully. The red ink marks beginnings, and the black carries the thought to its completion. Every sign is formed deliberately, measured in rhythm with breath. In this slow, deliberate repetition, there is comfort, a quiet meditation that carries him past the awareness of time itself. He notices small details as he writes. The texture of the papyrus beneath his fingers, slightly rough in one area, smooth in another. The way the ink spreads ever so slightly into the fibers. The faint hum of voices reciting lessons in the courtyard beyond. Each observation is absorbed quietly, without interruption, forming a tapestry of sensory detail that anchors him in the present. This attentiveness, this quiet awareness, is as much a part of his work as the script itself. As he continues, he pauses briefly to consider the meaning of the hymn. Its lines speak of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, who brings order to chaos and preserves memory across generations. Though the words are old, he feels them anew in the rhythm of his hand and in the gentle quiet of the hall. There is a deep satisfaction in knowing that the work of the scribe is not fleeting, but a bridge between past and future, a preservation of thought and ceremony. Occasionally, an apprentice approaches, carrying fresh water or arranging materials on neighboring tables. The scribe offers no instruction beyond a calm nod, allowing them to observe, to learn through presence rather than words. In this place, observation is itself a form of teaching, the quietest of guidance. The young scribes move like shadows, careful and respectful, absorbing the measured rhythm of labor. The afternoon light wanes further, turning amber and softening the sharp edges of the stone walls. The sound of writing continues, a gentle chorus of scraping reeds and ink-stained fingers. Even the faint rustle of a bird outside, perhaps a dove in the roof beams, becomes a gentle punctuation in the symphony of the day. The scribe works steadily, tracing the final lines with care, aware that each stroke contributes to the preservation of thought, order, and memory. Finally, he places the pen down. The hymn is complete, the ink slightly dried, the lines neat and even. He leans back and exhales slowly, feeling the satisfaction that comes from steady, uninterrupted effort. His eyes drift to the niches along the wall, where older scrolls rest quietly, their stories preserved for centuries. The continuity of this work, the unbroken line of scribes before him, brings a deep sense of peace. He rolls the scroll carefully, ties it with a thin linen strip and sets it aside. Even in this simple act there is grace, a deliberate motion that honors the labor and thought invested in every line. The movement is slow, almost ceremonial, the kind of action that settles the mind and the body alike. From the outer courtyard, a faint wind rises, carrying the fragrance of papyrus, herbs, and the cooling earth. He opens the window slightly, letting the soft breeze brush against his face. The world outside is vast and moving, but within these walls, time seems suspended, measured by the pace of careful hands and thoughtful eyes. A bell rings softly in the distance, signaling the transition toward evening. Other scribes begin to gather their tools, closing ink pots and stacking brushes neatly. The sound is quiet, unobtrusive, a reminder that the day is not over but shifting into its next phase. Even as he prepares to rest, he feels no urgency, only the gentle pull of routine, of rhythm, of enduring labor. He rises and stretches, the muscles of his back and arms relaxed from hours of careful work. His gaze wanders to the garden courtyard, where the water in the shallow basin reflects the deepening sky. The ibis stands still at the edge, its reflection shimmering in the calm surface, and he watches for a long moment, allowing the simplicity of the scene to fill his mind. Then he gathers his satchel, checks his tools, and moves slowly toward the gate that leads to the outer courtyard. The sunlight has faded further, softening the world into muted golds and grays. The distant hum of the temple begins to blend with the quiet murmurs of evening. He breathes in slowly, feeling the gentle fatigue of the day, the satisfaction of work completed, the enduring rhythm of words preserved. Before he exits, he glances back at the hall, the rows of scrolls, the low tables, and the young scribes now finishing their tasks. He feels a profound calm, the sense that even as the day ends, the work will continue, uninterrupted, steady, enduring. Each scroll, each line, each careful mark of ink is a testament to patience, to quiet diligence, to the meditation of labor. He steps out into the courtyard, and the air feels cooler now, carrying the faint scents of river and reeds, dust and stone. The sound of footsteps and rustling leaves accompanies him as he walks slowly toward the garden's shaded edge. The ibis, still unmoving, watches him pass, and for a moment, the world feels suspended, a quiet pause between the labor of the day and the rest of the evening. He sits beneath a small palm, letting the warmth of the fading sun rest on his shoulders. His hands, still tinged faintly with ink, rest in his lap. He breathes slowly, allowing the mind to drift, to linger on the day's simple rhythms. The feel of the pen, the gentle scratch of reed on papyrus, the soft murmur of voices, the play of light and shadow across stone and water. Time seems to dissolve into this quiet awareness, leaving only calm, measured presence. The day has passed. The work is done. The scribes, the scrolls, the temple, and the river beyond continue as they always have, in unbroken cycles, quiet and eternal. And the scribe rests, surrounded by the gentle echo of words, the slow rhythm of life, and the enduring comfort of measured, mindful labor. The late afternoon light softens into a warm, amber glow that fills the temple courtyard. Shadows stretch slowly across the stone floors, curling along the edges of walls and pillars, brushing gently against the scrolls stacked neatly on low shelves. The air is cooler now, carrying a faint scent of river water, drying reeds, and the earthy aroma of sun-warmed limestone. The day has moved gently, step by step, and now, as the scribe prepares to close the final scrolls, there is a sense of measured completion. He moves slowly to his table, gathering the tools that have accompanied him through the day. The reed pens are carefully cleaned and set aside. The ink pots are sealed, small lids pressed snugly to prevent evaporation. The scrap strips of papyrus are gathered and stacked neatly, ready to be burned or recycled according to custom. Each action is deliberate, precise, a small ritual in itself, designed to honor the labor of the day. He pauses for a moment, letting his eyes wander across the hall. The other scribes are engaged in similar final motions. Some roll their scrolls with careful hands, tie them with soft strips of linen, and place them gently in niches. Others sweep the floors or straighten the benches. A few young apprentices kneel near their tables, quietly inspecting their own work, adjusting minor imperfections with a gentle touch. The hall hums softly with activity, low and steady, like the slow pulse of a river. At the center of the temple, the priests begin their evening chant. Their voices are low, deep, and resonant, echoing along the walls and filling the hall with a quiet vibration. The words are ancient, prayers and hymns to the gods, praising order, balance, and wisdom. The scribe listens without moving, letting the cadence of sound settle around him, into him. Each note seems to slow his heartbeat, to anchor his thoughts in the present moment. He retrieves a final scroll from the table, one that contains records for the day, notes of offerings, and a few copied letters for the temple archives. He smooths the surface with his palm, noticing the slight grain of the papyrus, the warmth it has gathered from hours of handling. Each line of ink stands crisp and clear, a testament to careful patience. The act of closing the scroll is quiet and intentional. There is a ceremony in placing the linen tie over the finished work, in letting the last line of ink dry fully before stacking it with its companions. The light has shifted further, casting long, thin beams across the hall. He pauses again to observe the shadows, noticing how they bend around the pillars and furniture, how they stretch over the scrolls and the edges of tables. There is a subtle beauty in this slow transformation of the space, a reminder that the day itself is part of the work, measured not only in ink, but in the movement of light. Outside the hall, the wind carries the scent of flowering reeds and the faint, sweet aroma of lotus in bloom. A pigeon flutters past the open windows, its wings catching the last golden rays of sun. The scribe's eyes follow it briefly before returning to the scroll. There is comfort in the small, living details, a reminder that the world beyond the walls continues gently, without hurry, in harmony with the quiet rituals inside. He begins to stack the scrolls he has finished, placing each one carefully atop the other, ensuring balance and stability. The motion is rhythmic, soothing, one scroll after another, until a neat pile is formed, each marked with its day and purpose. Even in this simple act, he feels the satisfaction of order, of care taken to preserve not only the words but their environment. It is the same satisfaction felt in arranging the tools at the start of the day, or in trimming the reed pen to the perfect point. Nearby, a novice carries a small oil lamp to the hall, placing it on a low shelf. The flame flickers gently, casting dancing shadows across the walls. The scribe watches the movement quietly, aware that light itself can become part of the rhythm of the day, part of the quiet meditation he has maintained from dawn. The warm glow touches the edges of the scrolls, illuminating the red and black ink as though highlighting the care that went into each stroke. He pauses to clean the table, wiping away small traces of dust and fibers that have settled over the hours. Even this simple motion is meditative, each sweep of the cloth a deliberate rhythm that mirrors the act of writing itself. There is beauty in the completion of small, mundane tasks, especially when performed with thought and care. He notices how the cloth picks up tiny fragments of papyrus, how the surface of the table gleams faintly afterward, ready for the next day's work. The bell sounds softly again, signaling that the temple is transitioning fully into evening. The chants continue, their echo weaving through the hall, mingling with the soft footfalls of the scribes as they make final adjustments. The scribe rolls the last scroll, ties it with linen, and places it carefully in a niche along the wall. He pauses a moment to observe the arrangement. Neat rows, each scroll upright, each label facing forward, the care evident in every placement. This quiet order is itself a reflection of the rhythm of his life, the rhythm of thought captured in ink. As the sun sinks lower, the golden light softens further, turning almost to silver in the shadows of the hall. The scribe leans back, resting his hands in his lap, and closes his eyes briefly. He listens to the distant river, the faint movements of birds settling for the night, the low hum of chanting and quiet conversation. Each sound is gentle, measured, unhurried. It anchors him in the moment, connecting him to both the physical and spiritual rhythm of the temple. He opens his eyes slowly, taking in the space around him. The hall is neat and ordered, the scrolls preserved, the tools put away, and the air still humming with the residual energy of thoughtful labor. He feels a deep calm, a sense that the day, though long and steady, has moved exactly as it should, without haste, without loss. Even as the evening deepens, the work is secure, ready to continue tomorrow in the same rhythm, with the same gentle care. Finally, he rises and walks toward the inner courtyard one last time. The evening breeze brushes against his skin, soft and cooling. The ibis by the water remains still, mirrored perfectly in the rippling reflection, as if watching the slow conclusion of the day. The scribe pauses, letting the quiet settle fully around him, breathing deeply, aware of the continuity of labor, the preservation of thought, and the gentle passage of time. The day's work is complete. The scrolls are closed, the tools are rested, and the temple settles into the calm rhythm of evening. And the scribe, like the walls, the water, and the long line of scribes before him, rests in the quiet knowledge that what has been preserved in ink and careful hands will endure beyond the moment, a soft, steady bridge across time. The temple now basks in the soft glow of late evening. The sunlight has faded into a muted amber, brushing lightly against the walls and columns. Shadows stretch long and thin, moving imperceptibly as the day gives way to night. A gentle hush falls over the hall, as if the stone itself exhales after the steady labor of scribes and priests. The scribe moves slowly to a side table, where fresh oil lamps have been placed. He lights one, the flame flickering softly, casting a warm glow across the room. The light dances across the scrolls, highlighting the careful red and black ink of the day's work. It is a quiet, intimate illumination, one that emphasizes the beauty of the written word without demanding attention. He pauses to observe the other scribes around him. Some are still seated, finishing minor corrections or reviewing lines, their movements deliberate and unhurried. Others stand, stretching their arms and shoulders, muscles loosened from the careful rhythm of the day. Even the youngest apprentices move with measured care, learning not only the art of writing, but the gentle pace of presence. The scribe returns to his own table and lays out the last few scrolls of the day. He examines the edges carefully, ensuring no fibers have lifted, no ink has smudged, no line falters. Each scroll is a small universe of thought, and he handles them with reverence. The act of checking each detail, though quiet and repetitive, is deeply satisfying. It confirms that the day's work has been completed with diligence and care. Outside, a soft breeze stirs the reeds along the courtyard. The sound drifts through the open windows, mingling with the low hum of distant chanting. The scribe breathes in slowly, letting the cool, fragrant air fill him. It carries the subtle sense of earth, lotus, and water, a soothing blend that marks the transition from day to evening. He lifts a scroll and rolls it gently, securing it with a thin strip of linen. The motion is slow, deliberate, a final gesture of respect for the work it contains. Each scroll is placed in a niche, upright and organized, the labels facing outward. The hall, once bustling with quiet activity, now rests in careful order. There is balance, harmony, and a deep sense of accomplishment in this final arrangement. The scribe pauses again, resting his hands in his lap. He looks toward the windows, where the last traces of daylight are fading, leaving only the subtle glow of oil lamps inside and the rising stars outside. He listens to the faint rustle of wind through leaves, the distant call of a night bird, the soft echo of chanting drifting from the inner sanctum. Every sound blends into a gentle symphony, guiding the mind toward calm reflection. He takes a final drink of cool water, letting the sensation soothe his lips and throat. The day has been long, the labor steady and thoughtful. There is a deep satisfaction in the knowledge that every word has been carefully preserved, every line properly formed. Even in silence there is a profound sense of purpose, a quiet joy in the act of creation. Nearby, an apprentice carries a small broom, sweeping lightly along the hall stone floors. The scribe watches the rhythmic motion, appreciating the simplicity and repetition. Each movement, like his own, contributes to the quiet order of the space. The sweep of the broom, the soft scrape of the pen, the faint flicker of light from the lamp. Together, they form a meditation, an unspoken ritual of continuity and calm. He rises slowly, stretching his back and shoulders. The gentle ache in his muscles is a reminder of the day's rhythm, long hours spent in attentive labor, moving carefully, thinking deeply. There is no fatigue in the sense of weariness, only a comfortable awareness of effort well applied, of presence maintained throughout the day. The scribe moves toward the inner courtyard once more, carrying the final scrolls in a careful bundle. The ibis remains near the shallow pool, its reflection trembling lightly in the water. He pauses, watching the stillness of the bird mirrored in the quiet surface. It is a small, living affirmation of patience and balance, a companion to the meticulous labor of the day. As he places the last scroll in its niche, he hears the distant bell marking the beginning of evening prayers. The low, resonant sound spreads through the temple, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves and the faint murmur of wind. It signals a gentle transition, the closing of one cycle and the preparation for rest. The scribe feels a deep calm in the steady cadence of life here, the repetition of work, the attention to detail, the sacred rhythm of creation and preservation. He steps back from the scrolls and surveys the hall one final time. The lamps illuminate the neatly arranged tables, the finished scrolls, the quiet, attentive scribes who have begun to pause. Everything is in order, stable, and serene. He inhales slowly, filling his lungs with the scent of ink, papyrus, and cooling stone. It is the scent of accomplishment, of continuity, and of days lived in mindful attention. Finally, he leans back against a pillar, letting the weight of the day settle through him. His eyes follow the fading light across the floor, tracing the elongated shadows and the warm glow of oil lamps. He allows himself to feel the quiet satisfaction of work completed, the soft comfort of rhythm maintained, and the gentle promise of another day to come. The sky outside has shifted to deep indigo, and the first stars begin to appear, faintly twinkling above the temple walls. The air carries the coolness of evening, a gentle relief after the warmth of the day. The scribe moves slowly through the hall, now hushed with quiet completion, taking in the stillness that follows hours of measured labor. Even the shadows seem to settle into a calm rhythm, stretching long across the floor and curling around the edges of tables and scrolls. He pauses near the central aisle, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of the day ease from his shoulders. Each line of script, each careful stroke of the pen, each measured movement has left its imprint not only on papyrus, but within himself. There is a quiet satisfaction in knowing that the work is preserved, that the words will endure beyond the moment, carrying thought, memory, and devotion forward. The evening bell sounds softly in the distance, a hollow, soothing tone that blends seamlessly with the rustle of leaves and the gentle murmur of distant water. It is a sound that marks the transition into rest, not in haste, but with the natural progression of time. The scribe allows himself to feel the calm that the sound brings, each vibration resonating softly in the bones, the muscles, the mind. It is a meditation, a gentle acknowledgement that the day has been lived fully, deliberately, and without rush. He approaches the garden courtyard once more, his steps quiet on the stone floors. The shallow pool reflects the darkening sky, the first stars mirrored in its still surface. The ibis, now settling for the night, remains motionless at the water's edge. The scribe watches the reflection ripple slightly as the breeze passes, small waves disturbing the perfect symmetry of the scene. He smiles faintly at the simple beauty, the gentle reminder that even stillness contains subtle motion, life quietly unfolding. He kneels by the basin, splashing cool water over his face and wrists. The sensation refreshes him, washing away the lingering warmth of the day, and he allows himself to linger for a few moments in this private ritual. It is both practical and symbolic, a gentle cleansing, a preparation for rest, and a closing of the day's careful labor. Returning to the hall, he moves to the last of the unrolled scrolls. He rolls it carefully, tying it with the linen strip, and places it in its designated niche. The action is deliberate, the motion slow and precise. He runs his fingers lightly along the surface, checking for imperfections, noticing the slight texture of the papyrus and the faint relief of the dried ink. Even in this simple gesture, there is reverence for the work, for the continuity of scribes before him, and for the quiet rhythm of life maintained through careful attention. He walks slowly along the rows of completed scrolls, allowing his gaze to linger on the neatly arranged columns of text. Each scroll represents hours of thought, patience, and skill, yet the quiet order of their arrangement brings a sense of harmony. The hall itself seems to exhale with him, its stone walls absorbing and reflecting the careful labor of the day. Every corner, every shelf, every low table bears the imprint of quiet mindfulness. The distant chanting continues, low and resonant, blending with the soft flicker of oil lamps. The scribe takes a deep breath, feeling the rhythmic vibration of sound in his chest, a gentle reminder of the sacred order that underlies the daily tasks of writing and copying. Each word, each line, each measured movement connects him to centuries of scribes who have walked these same halls, worked at these same tables, and devoted themselves to the preservation of knowledge and memory. Finally, he moves to a small alcove, placing his own tools neatly on a shelf. The pens are cleaned and aligned, the ink pots sealed, and the cloths folded. There is a sense of closure in these small, deliberate acts, the final gestures of a long day of thoughtful work. He pauses, allowing his mind to rest on the calm, enduring rhythm of his life, the continuity of the scrolls, and the quiet, unhurried passage of time. The evening deepens further, and the temple settles into near silence. Only the gentle hiss of lamps, the occasional whisper of wind, and the faint murmur of distant water remain. The scribe sits quietly, leaning back against a pillar, letting the calm of the hall sink into him. The rhythm of the day, from the careful morning preparations to the measured afternoon work and the tranquil evening rituals, has carried him steadily, without hurry, into this moment of rest. He breathes slowly, his eyes following the gentle flicker of the lamp flames and the subtle reflection of the stars on the floor. The quiet order of the hall, the stillness of the scrolls, and the harmony of life preserved in ink all converge to create a profound sense of peace. In this space, work and rest are seamlessly intertwined, and the scribe feels the completeness of the day in every fiber of his being. Finally, he rises, moving slowly toward the exit of the hall. The air outside is cool, scented faintly with water, reeds, and evening earth. The ibis remains near the pool, motionless, a quiet companion in the dim light. He pauses, allowing the calm to surround him, letting the measured rhythm of the day linger in his mind, a gentle bridge to the coming night. The scribe kneels briefly by the pool, resting his hands on the stone edge and inhaling the cool air. He closes his eyes, feeling the slow pulse of the evening, the fading warmth of the day, and the enduring calm of quiet labor. The world has moved gently alongside him, steady, unhurried, continuous. At last, he rises once more, turning toward his small chamber. The scrolls are safe, the tools are rested, the hall is quiet. He walks slowly, deliberately, each step a final gesture of mindfulness. The day has ended not with drama, but with the quiet satisfaction of work done well, with care, and with attention to the smallest details. He enters his chamber, sets aside the day's outer robes, and rests his hands in his lap. The sounds of the temple fade further, leaving only the subtle murmur of distant water, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the slow, steady pulse of his own breathing. He closes his eyes fully, letting the calm of the day carry him gently toward sleep. The inked lines, the carefully rolled scrolls, the measured labor of the day, all settle softly in memory, a quiet anchor in the night. The scribe rests at last, surrounded by the gentle continuity of words, labor, and quiet devotion. The house of life holds its silence like a soft, enduring blanket, the flicker of lamps fading, the shadows merging into darkness, and the calm rhythm of life continuing, unbroken, into the night. Night has settled gently over the temple complex. The sky is deep indigo, sprinkled with faint stars that shimmer quietly above the stone walls. A soft breeze carries the subtle scent of river water, damp reeds, and the earthy warmth of cooling stone. The world outside moves slowly, in harmony with the rhythm of nature, while inside, the scribe prepares for rest, allowing the day's labor to dissolve softly into memory. He steps into his small chamber, its walls plain but familiar, the floor cool beneath his feet. The day's tools are neatly arranged on a shelf, pens cleaned, inkpots sealed, scrolls safely stored. The room is quiet, yet it hums faintly with the echo of hours spent writing, reading, and observing. Even in stillness, the traces of the day linger, the faint scent of ink, the gentle warmth of the papyrus, the subtle impressions of careful hands. The scribe sits on his low mat, breathing slowly, letting the body and mind settle. He feels the gentle fatigue of steady labor, a comfortable awareness of muscles relaxed from hours of attentive movement. There is no urgency now, no task to complete, only the soft unfolding of evening, the measured rhythm of life continuing without interruption. He closes his eyes briefly, remembering the slow movements of the day, the touch of the pen, the sweep of his hand across papyrus, the rhythmic stacking of scrolls. The room is faintly illuminated by a single oil lamp. Its flame flickers gently, casting soft, dancing shadows that stretch across the walls. The scribe allows his gaze to rest on the gentle movement, noticing the subtle variations in light and shadow. There is comfort in these small, ordinary patterns, a reminder that the world, even in darkness, continues its quiet, steady course. He reflects on the day's work, not with pride or urgency, but with gentle awareness. Each line written, each stroke of ink, each careful gesture has been an act of preservation, a bridge between past and future. The scrolls, now safely stored, carry memory forward, linking generations of scribes, priests, and worshippers through the steady rhythm of words. Even as he rests, he feels connected to this continuum, a small, mindful part of a much larger pattern. Outside the window, the gentle night wind stirs the leaves of the courtyard palms. The faint rustle is soothing, like a soft whisper that moves through the chamber. From the temple, A distant bell tolls, marking the hour, echoing faintly across stone walls and water. The scribe listens to the sound without thought, allowing it to merge with his slow breathing in the residual rhythm of the day. Each toll seems to lengthen the pause between thoughts, encouraging quiet reflection and gentle presence. He lies back on the mat, letting the body fully relax. His hands rest lightly on his chest, feeling the slow rise and fall of each breath. The room is cool, the air faintly scented with the memory of ink and stone. The scribe allows his mind to drift gently, revisiting small moments from the day. The first strokes of red ink at dawn, the careful alignment of columns, the faint flicker of light across finished scrolls. Each memory is a gentle tether, a quiet reassurance of work done with care, of time spent in calm attention. The sound of water from the courtyard basin drifts faintly into the room. Its gentle ripples echo softly in the scribe's mind, merging with the whisper of wind and the faint echo of distant chanting. The combination creates a meditative rhythm, slow, steady, unhurried. He imagines the ibis standing perfectly still at the water's edge, mirrored in the gentle movement of the surface, and allows the image to settle in his mind. He breathes deeply, feeling the evening settles fully over the temple and over himself. The faint glow of the lamp casts a warm, soft circle of light, yet the rest of the chamber dissolves into quiet shadow. The scribe's thoughts soften, moving away from structured attention to observation of subtle details, the texture of the mat beneath him, the faint scent of cooling papyrus, the play of light across the walls. Each small sensation is enough to hold attention without demanding effort, allowing the mind to rest in gentle awareness. In this calm state, the scribe reflects on the continuity of life, the small but meaningful work of preserving words and thought. He knows that scrolls will be read tomorrow, and tomorrow after that new scribes will continue the rhythm, that the house of life itself endures quietly, unhurried. The knowledge brings a profound comfort, a reminder that even in stillness there is purpose, and even in rest there is connection to all that has come before. His eyelids grow heavy. The lamp flickers once more, then settles into steady light. The scribe allows himself to drift further, guided by the steady pulse of his breath, the faint sounds of night, and the lingering satisfaction of a day, lived fully and gently. Each thought dissolves slowly, leaving only calm, measured presence, a quiet, steady awareness of self, space, and time. The stars outside twinkle faintly, barely visible through the window. The river beyond murmurs softly, carrying its endless rhythm into the night. The scribe's body and mind follow a similar flow, easing gradually into rest, embracing the slow, meditative passage from wakefulness to sleep. And so the scribe rests, surrounded by the careful labor of the day, the enduring presence of scrolls, and the gentle continuity of life. The house of life is still, the temple quiet, the wind and water moving softly outside, and the world itself seems to sigh in steady rhythm, welcoming the night. The night deepens, wrapping the temple in a soft, quiet darkness. The lamp's glow reaches only a small circle, leaving the rest of the chamber in gentle shadow. Outside, the reeds sway slowly, their movement almost imperceptible, whispering softly to the stones of the courtyard. The scribe lies on his mat, breathing evenly, feeling the gradual unwinding of muscles that have spent the day in patient motion. He allows his mind to drift, revisiting the rhythm of his work, the slow scratch of the reed against papyrus, the careful alignment of lines, the deliberate spacing of words. Each moment floats past him like clouds in a calm sky. There is no urgency, no need for judgment, only gentle observation. The labor of the day becomes a meditation, a slow, unbroken thread that carries him toward serenity. The sounds of night seep through the window, a faint rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of the river, and perhaps the occasional soft call of a night bird. These quiet noises blend seamlessly with the memory of the day, forming a gentle chorus that guides his thoughts into a slow, calm rhythm. Each sound is noted, absorbed and released, without tension or focus, allowing the mind to float freely, as though suspended in the warm, steady current of time. He recalls the final scrolls of the evening, the precise motion of rolling, tying, and storing them in their niches. The repetition of these simple gestures brings a deep sense of satisfaction. Even small details, the way the linen tie fits snugly, the texture of the papyrus, the faint gleam of dried ink, resonate with quiet importance. It is the small, meticulous acts that preserve thought across generations, and he feels himself at peace within this enduring continuity. The scribe's thoughts turn to the ibis in the courtyard, reflected in the still surface of the basin. He remembers its perfect stillness, the way its reflection mirrors it almost exactly, and he imagines the same calm mirrored within himself. The gentle rise and fall of his chest match the soft ripple of water, a rhythm of life and reflection, of presence and awareness. Even in sleep he feels the continuity of existence, a quiet connection to the natural world around him. His hands rest lightly on his chest, fingers relaxed, thumbs brushing lightly over the smooth fabric of his mat. The faint scent of ink lingers, mingling with the cool air from the window. He inhales slowly, letting the fragrance settle into memory, allowing the mind to drift deeper into calm observation. Each breath becomes longer, softer, merging seamlessly with the gentle chorus of night sounds. The memory of the day's small details floats past. The subtle play of light on the walls, the flicker of oil lamps, the soft rustle of scrolls being handled with care. Even the mundane acts, tidying the table, sweeping the floors, washing the hands and face, are recalled not as tasks, but as meditative movements, a gentle sequence of presence and awareness. The scribe feels the continuity of these motions ripple inward, each thought dissolving into quiet appreciation for the simple, deliberate life he leads. Outside, the river flows gently, carrying reflections of moonlight along its surface. He imagines the sound of water brushing against reeds and stone, a subtle, steady rhythm that mirrors the pulse of his own body. The ibis, now still for the night, reflects silently in the calm pool, and he pictures himself mirrored in the water, unbroken, still, and whole. It is a reflection not of vanity, but of quiet mindfulness, of harmony between self, work, and environment. The scribe's mind softens further, drifting toward imagery both familiar and gentle. He recalls the sunlight filtering through the temple windows earlier in the day, the long, curling shadows stretching across stone floors, the gentle warmth on his shoulders. He remembers the careful movements of his hands tracing symbols, the soft sounds of ink meeting papyrus, the subtle variations of red and black. These memories become a slow, repeating pattern, comforting and rhythmic, guiding his awareness into deeper rest. A faint hum of distant chanting continues from the inner temple, now almost imperceptible. It merges with the rustle of leaves, the distant ripple of water, and the scribe's own steady breathing. Each sound blends into the next, forming a gentle symphony of presence without urgency or focus. It is a lullaby of quiet, a meditation on continuity, calm, and simple attention. The scribe imagines the scrolls stacked neatly in their niches, each one a quiet testament to patient labor and mindful thought. He sees the tools arranged carefully on the shelf, the lamp's soft glow flickering gently across the table. Even in the dimness, he perceives order, symmetry, and calm, a world of measured gestures, deliberate care, and steady rhythm. It is a reassuring vision, a meditation in light and shadow, form and quiet, labor and rest. He lets his awareness drift to the gentle pulse of life beyond the chamber, the river flowing silently, the reeds swaying in the wind, the distant temple bell fading into the night. The scribe feels himself as part of this rhythm, not separate, not hurried, but flowing steadily alongside the world. Every breath, every heartbeat, every soft movement is part of the same quiet pattern, a slow unfolding that carries him gently toward sleep. Finally, the scribe's eyelids grow heavier, the last threads of deliberate thought dissolving into gentle awareness. The lamp's flicker softens, shadows merge completely, and the chamber feels fully settled, cocooned in stillness. He inhales deeply, letting the calm fill every part of him, and exhales slowly, allowing the day's measured rhythm to settle fully into body and mind. The scribe drifts further into rest, surrounded by the quiet order of his work, the enduring presence of the scrolls, and the gentle continuity of the temple at night. Outside, the river flows, the reeds sway, and the stars remain, distant but constant. Within, the scribe's breathing and heartbeat merge with the slow, unbroken pulse of the world, a soft, steady rhythm carrying him into the calm of night. The chamber is fully quiet now. The lamp has burned low, casting only the faintest glow across the walls. Shadows have softened into one uniform darkness, comforting and still. The scribe lies on his mat, body fully relaxed, hands resting lightly upon his chest, fingers brushing the soft fabric beneath. The day's work, the careful handling of scrolls, the deliberate movements and measured labor, all dissolve into a quiet awareness of presence. He breathes slowly, deliberately, feeling the gentle rise and fall of his chest, the pulse of life steady and calm. The river outside murmurs softly, distant and even, its rhythm blending with the soft rustle of leaves and the faint lingering echo of temple chanting. Each sound becomes a thread in a slow, meditative pattern, weaving the scribe's awareness into the tranquil rhythm of the night. He allows his mind to drift freely, untethered from expectation or purpose. Thoughts from the day, the scratch of the pen, the texture of papyrus, the subtle warmth of sunlight on stone, float past him gently, like leaves drifting on water. He observes them softly, without judgment, allowing each memory to rise and fade naturally. In this quiet reflection, he feels the continuity of life, the slow, deliberate movement of time, and the gentle presence of the world beyond his chamber. The ibis in the courtyard remains still, reflected perfectly in the shallow pool. He imagines its mirrored calm, a perfect echo of the stillness he seeks within himself. The soft rustle of night insects, the whisper of wind, and the faint ripple of water merge into a slow, soothing cadence. His body relaxes further, releasing any remaining tension, surrendering fully to the rhythm of the night. He recalls the last rays of sunlight from the day, now transformed into the cool luminescence of evening. The stone walls, the neatly stacked scrolls, the low tables, the oil lamps, all become familiar, steady companions, offering a quiet reassurance. He feels the persistence of order, of care, of mindful attention, not as a burden but as a gentle embrace, grounding him in presence and calm. His breathing slows further, each exhale longer than the last. The scribe imagines the soft swaying of reeds along the riverbank, the distant murmur of flowing water, and the quiet twinkle of stars above. Each element blends seamlessly into his awareness, creating a gentle cocoon of sound, scent, and memory. It is a lullaby of life itself, slow and unhurried, carrying him effortlessly toward the deepest rest. He allows any lingering thoughts to drift away, like tiny feathers floating on a quiet current. There is no need to hold, no need to engage, only the steady, soft presence of now, the warmth of the mat beneath him, the faint scent of papyrus and ink, the soft echo of the day's labor, all converge into a serene, meditative awareness. He feels the day's rhythm settle fully into body and mind, leaving only calm, steady presence. Outside, the night deepens, the river flows endlessly, and the stars shine quietly above. Inside, the temple is still, the scrolls secured, the tools rested, the hall prepared for another day. The scribe lies fully at ease, one with the slow, measured pulse of the world around him. Every breath, every heartbeat, Every soft flicker of lamp and shadow merges into the calm continuum of life. Finally, the scribe drifts completely into sleep, a gentle surrender to rest. The house of life holds its quiet around him, a sanctuary of words, labor, and continuity. The ibis, the reeds, the river, and the distant stars witness the stillness, the serenity of a day's labor concluded in a mind at peace. And in this gentle harmony the scribe rests fully, cradled by the rhythm of the world, the enduring presence of his work, and the unbroken continuity of life itself. The night stretches softly, timeless and gentle, carrying all the quiet labor, observation, and reflection of the day into a calm, enduring peace. Here, in this soft stillness, the mind drifts, the body rests, and the gentle rhythm of existence continues, unhurried, serene, and steady. The night has settled completely, soft and unhurried. The stars shine quietly above, scattered like tiny lanterns across the dark velvet sky. The river beyond the temple flows gently, its waters whispering softly over stones, carrying reflections of moonlight and shadow. A faint breeze stirs the leaves of the reeds, their gentle rustle a soothing melody that drifts through the open windows and fills the chamber. The scribe lies comfortably on his mat, body fully at ease, hands resting lightly upon his chest. Every muscle, every joint, every fiber is relaxed, as if the day's labor has gently melted away. The soft warmth of the lamp's fading glow brushes the edges of the room, creating a tender cocoon of comfort and calm. The air carries a subtle scent of ink, papyrus, and cooling stone, a faint reminder of the day's gentle work, now soft and comforting, wrapping the scribe in familiarity. He breathes slowly, deeply, in harmony with the rhythm of the night. With each inhalation, he feels a gentle wave of calm rising through his body. With each exhale, a soft release, letting go of any lingering tension or thought. The scribe's mind drifts effortlessly, like a small boat floating on the quiet river outside, moving gently with the current, weightless and free. The ibis in the courtyard remains perfectly still at the water's edge, mirrored exactly in the still surface of the pool. Its serene reflection is a perfect companion to the scribe's own stillness. He imagines himself mirrored in the water, floating in gentle harmony with the night, calm and untroubled, entirely at peace. Every sound in the temple blends into a slow, soothing symphony, the distant ripple of the river soft and steady, the faint rustle of leaves, whispering secrets only the night can tell, the low residual hum of temple walls, carrying the energy of centuries of quiet, careful labor. Each sound carries him further into relaxation, each one a soft thread pulling him deeper into comfort. The scribe recalls the slow, gentle rhythm of the day, the careful strokes of the reed pen, the smoothness of the papyrus beneath his fingers, the faint flicker of lamplight on neatly stacked scrolls. He lets these memories drift past him like warm sunlight, touching the edges of thought without clinging, without demand. The day has been completed with care, the labor preserved, and now all is still. Even these memories are gentle, soft, and comforting, guiding him towards serenity. He imagines the river outside, flowing endlessly, reflecting the moonlight in rippling silver. He imagines the stars, steady and serene, watching over the temple, over the scribe, over the world. The night is vast, quiet, and protective, carrying him like a soft blanket into deep, restorative rest. The soft scent of evening carries through the chamber, faint lotus, damp reeds, warm stone. Each breath fills the lungs with calm, each exhale releases the day completely. The scribe's heartbeat slows naturally, each beat like a soft drum guiding the body and mind toward complete ease. Every fiber of his being feels held, cradled, and supported by the gentle rhythm of life all around him. Now, he lets his imagination wander softly through the courtyard. He sees the scrolls neatly arranged, perfectly still in their niches. He sees the small lamp flickering faintly, casting a warm golden glow on the stone walls. He notices the subtle textures of the temple floor, the gentle curvature of the pillars, the way shadows bend softly around the corners. Every detail is quiet, harmonious, and calming, a world perfectly suited for rest. His awareness drifts further, to the soft murmurs of nature beyond the temple walls. The river continues its slow journey, whispering to the stones and reeds. The night wind caresses the leaves and grasses, carrying the gentle scents of earth, water, and blossom. Even the faintest star above seems to shine just for him, steady and reassuring, marking the rhythm of the universe with soft light. He breathes in, feeling the gentle coolness of night. He breathes out, releasing the last fragments of thought and tension. With each breath, his body becomes lighter, freer, and his mind softer, quieter, like the smooth surface of the river in the moonlight. All that remains is presence, calm, and gentle ease. The scribe imagines himself floating, weightless, in the serene glow of moonlight. The night air envelops him like a warm, protective cloak. The ibis, the river, the stars, the reeds, all are companions in this soft journey. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do, only the slow, tender rhythm of existence carrying him towards sleep. Every detail fades gently. The lamp's glow dims further. The scrolls settle in silence. The river's whispers soften. The stars shine faintly but steadily. The scribe's body sinks deeper into the mat, every breath slower, every exhale releasing more fully. The chamber, the courtyard, the temple, all rest together, a unified world of stillness, calm, and enduring peace. He feels a quiet happiness, a gentle joy, flowing softly through him. The day has been lived fully, gently, and with care. The world continues in its slow, harmonious rhythm, and he is part of it, steady, safe, calm, and completely at ease. He smiles faintly in the stillness, feeling the warmth of this connection to the world, the night, and the continuity of life itself. And now the scribe drifts fully into sleep. The breath, the heartbeat, the gentle rhythm of river, wind, and stars all become one soft, unbroken current. Every sound, every sensation, every memory dissolves into a gentle flow, carrying him deeper and deeper into serene, happy rest. The night surrounds him completely, softly, protectively, like the tender embrace of the world itself. The stars shine above, the river flows endlessly, the reeds sway quietly, and all is well. Sleep fully, peacefully, joyfully. The day is complete, the world is calm, all is exactly as it should be.